So I'm going to be talking about seasteading and competitive government, um, which is kind of an unusual topic, but this is going to be very economics-based, talking about incentives and rational people, even though it's applying it to a kind of a strange idea. Uh, and what I hope is whether or not I convince you that floating cities are the way to improve government, I hope to at least convince you that the way that a lot of people think about how to improve government is wrong, and that there's kind of another way which you can think of as competing with government rather than complaining about it, which is better. So I'm not going to talk about morality, even very much about freedom. I think of government just as a product. That is, citizens pay their taxes, they get a product. Some people think it's not very good. At the Liberty Forum, someone referred to Brazil as paying the taxes of Sweden for the service. Even if it's a bad product, I think of it as a product. And also as a technology. And what I mean by technology is like a set of rules and processes. There's not so much difference between a legal system, a written set of rules by which a court decides the outcome of a case, and say the procedure for designing this computer, which is a written set of rules for how to transform something like sand into silicon chips and programs on those chips. So you could think of them as rules or as ideas, but in both cases they are information that we can work on and that we can improve. And as a libertarian, I have to clarify that I'm not saying that all government is a product, that this is the only way to think of it. I have the same moral beliefs as most libertarians about coercion being wrong and all of that. I don't think that viewpoint is very useful for figuring out why a country might get Haitian quality at Swedish prices or how to fix it. Part of the point is that I want us to think about government like entrepreneurs, like business people, and not with the part of our minds that we usually use for politics. When I met Mr. Franco at William Ling's house, he met my dad and I, and he was introduced as the formal central banker, and he said, "You guys must not like central bankers very much." But I think that the kind of way of thinking about good guys and bad guys and our party and their party, it's very natural, and it comes from our kind of primate past in tribes, and I think it's not the right way to think about government. I think it's not useful, and it actually gets in the way of understanding the incentives and fixing them. So if government is a product, how much does the quality of this product vary? This is a picture of the Korean peninsula at night. This is North Korea. I guess that must be Pyongyang over there. And that's South Korea. You can see that these two countries that started with the same people, the same culture, the same resources, took very different paths of economic growth, only because of the difference in the government product that they chose, the technology that they used. One of these is much better than the other. So what set of rules you have is very important. And some people, this is just another example of the same thing. Some people think that, okay, well, maybe communism is so bad that it can spoil a country. But this is a graph for OECD countries for the past 50 years. This is government spending as a percentage of GDP, and this is average annual growth rate. So, I mean, the question of what are the greatest factors for growth is very controversial, but this is at least one viewpoint suggesting the more money government spends, the slower it grows. I mean, this doesn't have to be the case, right? If we just think about government as a product, some of the products have a higher price than others. Maybe they're better products. But no, it turns out, actually, you don't get what you pay for when it comes to government. Okay, so if government is a product, and it's a product whose quality matters a lot, and in many places it's not a great product, A natural question is whether we can do better. Maybe the current governments we have, the current version of democracy, is the best that we can do. But I think that this is very unlikely for a couple of reasons. One is, I think it's sort of a status quo bias that makes us think this, that the things that we have seen and experienced really drive our perception of what's possible. We assume that's all that's possible when that's all that we've seen. But that's really not true. If this room represented every different possible political system that anybody could ever imagine or do, we've tried maybe as much space as is in my fist. That's all we've tried. And the chance, if you try to drop that status quo bias of your experience and just say, what's the chance that the very best way for people to make political decisions is in here, when there are all these possibilities, it's tiny. And another reason to believe that we can do better in government is that we've learned so much in science and developed so much new technology. I'm from America, where the Constitution was written in 1776. And I wish that we still followed it. But while I think that it would be better than the way the U.S. is run now, I find the people, the Ron Paul, back to the Constitution, I think that they're really wrong, because there's no way that the Constitution in 1776 is the best way to run a country. Like, think about all the advances in psychology and economics since 1776. There's no way that those advances cannot inform the design of a government. And another change is technology, like computers. Let me just make this a little bit more concrete by giving you an example of a different government system that we could have. So, democracy, one person, one vote. But the way we do it right now is we vote every couple of years for a representative who represents a really large number of people. And this has all kinds of problems. Maybe the representative, maybe you care a lot about one issue, and so you elect someone, and then they do a lot of things that you hate on other issues. Maybe you don't have time to monitor their performance. Maybe you'd prefer to select different people on different issues or more often. With computers, we could do a much more direct democracy, where when things came up for a vote, it could appear on your computer in the morning. And most people wouldn't have the time to follow it, but you could instead pick certain people who would vote for you on your computer. You could pick certain organizations. You could pick the Millennium Institute to vote for you on certain issues. And you could say, for this set of issues, I trust this person or organization. For this set of issues, I trust this. And when two organizations claim to have the same expertise, it comes up on your computer in red, and you select how you want to override the conflict. I think that this system, it wouldn't be perfect. It'll have some flaws, some of the same flaws of democracy that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. I think it would be better than the way we do things right now. And it was completely impossible 20 years ago. In some countries that don't have enough internet penetration, it's impossible now. So the idea that government is, a moral thing, that it's a historical thing, is, I think, just wrong. Government is a set of ways of doing things, and we can experiment and change and learn.